DND number 12, Feed My Sheep in Jesus' Name, Chapter 7. Agent Thompson pulled Rose's car into the parking lot of the Gabe Tanner Community Center on Main Street in downtown Pine Forest. They could see that there were other agents there, the ones who'd had the job of watching over the facility and the big tents out back overnight to keep anyone from destroying them and ruining the event. The agent walked with her to the building and immediately blocked her behind him as a large man approached holding 2 large and 1 small cup. Rose stepped out from behind the agent. Agent Thompson, this is Jericho Jones. You'll be seeing a lot of him because we're like, buddies. Jericho's brows shot up. Buddies? He questioned. Rose nodded nervously. I mean, like, friends. Jericho nodded. Okay, friends. He offered his hand to the agent. Agent Thompson, nice to meet you. And Rose and I will be more than buddies if I can ever get her to find time to go on an actual date with me. Agent Thompson smiled. I feel you, man. Jericho nodded. So far, a few coffee dates and watching a few sporting events with her family. That's as far as I've gotten. Well, I wish you luck, Agent Thompson said. Thanks, I need it. So, do you work around here? Thompson asked. Well, yes and no. I'm a firefighter EMS specialist, and I train all emergency services personnel. So I'm here at least until after the new year, maybe longer. Maybe longer? Rose asked. He shrugged. With the proper incentive. She punched in the numbers on the alarm, and the 3 entered the building. If I'd known you'd be here, Jericho began, I would have brought you a coffee, too. Oh, no problem. I've had breakfast, and I'm fine. I'm working right now anyway. Miss Rose, where will you be? I'll be in the office over there, she said, pointing to her left. It's that door behind the high counter. Got it. Mr. Jones, you'll be with her? Yes, and please, call me Jericho or JJ. JJ it is. Miss Rose, I'm going to check out the facility. Maybe later today you can take me on a tour, but for now I want to make my own assessment. Assessment? As to the layout and safety of the premises. Jericho smiled. I like this guy. Just doing my job. Just to be sure, Miss Rose, at this time, you and JJ are the only ones who should be on the premises, correct? Yes, correct, until Daisy and a whole bunch of other people arrive. And please, just call me Rose. Yes, ma'am, Rose it is. Just out of curiosity, Agent Thompson, how old are you? I'm 25, ma'am. Well, at least you're older than me. You look very young. Yes, ma'am, I get that a lot. Well, right now I'm 23, and you'll be 24 on Christmas Day. Yes, ma'am, I know. How did you know? I received this assignment yesterday afternoon, and I did my homework. I take my job very seriously. Rose smiled. I see you do, and I now know why you were sent to watch over me. He nodded. Enjoy your coffee. Rose and Jericho headed into her office. She sat at her desk, and he set the coffee in front of her and then set a second styrofoam cup beside it. What's this? She asked. He grinned. Your ice cream. She squealed with delight. Oh, yay! Thank you so much, Jericho. He smiled. You're very welcome. He watched as she took the plastic spoon provided and raked the soft-serve ice cream into her cup of coffee, and then licked the spoon clean. She looked up and smiled at him, looking him over. He wore blue jeans, athletic shoes, and an old faded UGA sweatshirt. You're looking very handsome today. Is that because I brought you ice cream? Because I'm dressed for working. She giggled. Maybe. Note to self, ice cream improves my image. Rose laughed as she drank some of her coffee and put it down on the desk. That is so good. He watched her as she licked her lips. He moved closer and she looked up at him from where she sat. Her gorgeous blue eyes opened wide. Reaching out, he softly touched the edge of her V-neck and opened it a bit and pressed his fingers lightly along the edge of the bandage where it met her skin, and she drew in a breath. He looked into her eyes. I don't know what you're doing, but just because I got stabbed and you helped to doctor me doesn't mean that you can just touch me intimately whenever you'd like. He smiled at her. When I touch you intimately, you'll know exactly what I'm doing, he murmured. She swallowed. When? You mean if. His eyes darkened. I say what I mean. You're mighty sure of yourself, Jericho Jones. One has to be to win over the most amazing girl I've ever known. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. He put his hands around her upper arms and pulled her to her feet. Rose, have dinner with me tonight. I I don't have time. You have to make time to eat or you'll get weak and sick and mess everything up. You have to be here on Thursday, healthy and strong. I'm only asking for dinner. No movie, no dancing, just dinner. I'll only have a short time. 1 hour. 1 hour spent dining with me. She sighed. He moved closer and tilted her face up and ran his thumb and forefinger over her jaw and touched her lips. He stayed there like that for several seconds and then sighed and stepped back. I'll pick you up. Your agent can follow if he wants, but I want you alone. She nodded. He smiled and set her back into her chair and took his own seat across from the desk. So, Rosie Posey, what's on the agenda today? New scene. Jeffy Kinos Wallace smiled when her phone buzzed. She'd been expecting the call. Well, hello there, Kimmy Deal, she said brightly. Anything you want to tell me? Kimmy giggled. Nope, just called to say hi. Liar. How far apart are the contractions? 10 minutes apart. The midwife is on the way. My dad is a nervous wreck. My mom is right here. And Jensen is hanging in there doing all the right things. Is there water in the bath? It's filling, and Jensen is checking the temperature right now. How bad is the pain? Not too bad yet. Okay. Well, the water's going to help a lot with that. I know you know, but I just wanted to reassure you. I'm so sorry that I'm not there for you. It's okay, Jeffy. I knew this is probably how it was going to go. Jeffy breathed deeply and closed her eyes. Hello, Kimmy said. I'm here. I'm just reading you. Everything is good right now. Your water is going to break soon, and the contractions are going to come hard after that. Go ahead and get in the water now. I'm going to take some of the discomfort. Don't you dare. I want to feel it all, every single bit of it. Jeffy smiled. Kimmy the warrior, I'm so proud of you and happy for you. I love you, Kim. I'm going to hang up and let you share this special time with your hubby. Take video and pics and send them later. Will do. Ugh. This is a hard one. Are you sure you don't want me to help? No, I'm not sure, so hang up before I break my resolution. Jeffy laughed. Yes, ma'am. Be strong. You too, Jensen. Trying to, he said loudly. Bye, Jeffy. Love you like a sis, Kimmy said. New scene. At the aptly named Church Street Diner, Gabe grinned at Peyton as he criticized the amount of food on Gabe's plate. Gabe looked Peyton's plate over, which was just as full. Look who's talking, Gabe said. Well, I didn't eat anything before I left the house. Can you say the same? Gabe laughed. Nope. Where does it all go? Peyton asked. You don't have an ounce of fat on you. Gabe shrugged. I guess I expend a lot of energy. He glanced at his watch. Peyton smiled. Don't worry, we have plenty of time before we have to report, and we're only 2 streets over from the center. We're good. Gabe nodded. I just don't want to be late. All the Kinos and Adams and Smiths will be arriving at the center in about an hour. Smiths? Toby Nash's family. Their real name is Smith. Nash is a stage name, but he keeps his legal name, Smith. Got it. So that means Brody Smith is going to be here? Yes, he's here. He's doing great, Peyton said. He has one of the highest batting averages in the nation. Gabe nodded. He should. He's a big guy. Bigger than me, Peyton said. Yep. You met him at Jake and Lena's wedding. Yeah, I'm just trying to remember. Well, you can look him up on your phone, but you're going to see him again within the hour. He looks almost exactly like his father, just a younger version. Anyway, your average was almost at the top for high school, Peyton. You're no slouch. I know that, and I'm working hard, and I'm going to make something of myself. I totally believe in you, Gabe said with a smile. Peyton smiled. And I believe in you, Gabe. You've been such a major part of my life. And you've been the same for me. And listen, I've been meaning to say that though we may not be able to get together like we used to, you'll always be, my best friend. He shook his head and smiled. This is too sugary for me. Peyton laughed. Really? You're usually the one who gets all emotional. No, I don't. Gabe, give me a break. Everything touches you so deeply. Whatever. Okay, here's something else I've thought about. Something I need to thank you for. What? For Taylor. What do I have to do with Taylor? That day on the phone when you went bonkers over her hotness, it opened something in my mind. I'd always thought of her as being way out of my league and off limits. Because of you, I started to see her in a different light. And then her father had me teach her to shoot, and it was like a fire started burning and I couldn't put it out. Peyton chuckled. The way you say things, Tanner, I swear you could write a book of poetry. Gabe shrugged. So anyway, what do you think about your mom and Dalton? Peyton nodded with a smile. I think he's a good guy, and I really like the way he treats her, the way he takes care of her. If they work out, I think it will be so good for my mom. And Lucas likes him too, so that's also a good thing. This makes me feel so happy, Gabe said. Dalton is a good guy. Peyton nodded. They talked for several minutes as they cleaned their plates. Tanner. Gabe glanced up to his right at Agent Key, who was standing against the wall next to the table where Peyton and Gabe sat eating breakfast. Yes, sir, Gabe said quietly. Check out the shaved head at your 3. The guy at the counter with the blue shirt? Yes, he's nervous. He's looked at you several times. Be ready. Got it. Agent Key sighed, moved forward. Nope, I don't like it. Let's go. Gabe frowned but obeyed. Ready, Peyton? Gabe said as he stood. I guess so. The guy at the counter turned to look at Gabe again, apparently saw that they were leaving and reached for a weapon tucked in the back of his pants. At that very moment, a little boy right in front of the blue shirt guy dropped his little plastic bottle of orange juice and began to wail. Blue shirt pulled a gun and stepped toward Gabe, but immediately stepped in the puddle of juice. His feet went out from under him, and he fell onto his back, and the gun falling from his hand and sliding across the floor right at Gabe, who simply put his foot down on it and then scooped it up and pointed it at the guy. A couple of women screamed. Agent Key went to the bad guy as he started to get up. A quick punch to the throat and then forehead, and the guy was neutralized. Agent Key ordered Gabe to call his father as he quickly cuffed the perp. Gabe called his father and his Uncle Joey, who was probably nearby, and Sheriff Ty, and within 5 minutes, police and Joey walked through the door of the diner. Joey approached Agent Key and Gabe. Everyone okay? Gabe nodded. Yes, sir. He nodded at his bodyguard. Thanks to Agent Key, he spotted him almost immediately and was trying to get us out when the guy pulled the gun. I guess the guy was just gonna outright shoot me. Joey nodded. I'm sorry, Gabe, but I want you in a vest the rest of the week. Gabe sighed. Yes, sir. Joey turned his attention to Agent Key. Agent, good job, Joey said as he offered his hand. Thank you, sir, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Deputy Director Adams. The pleasure is mine. Agent Key smiled. As much as I'd like to take credit for what happened here, it was really a kid who saved the day. Right as the perp turned to pull his weapon, some kid spilled his juice and the guy slipped. It was almost a miracle, or he may have gotten a shot off. Joey nodded and glanced at Gabe. Things are not almost a miracle. They either are or they aren't. We all prayed for protection this morning. We prayed that God would thwart the enemy. He's answering our prayers. Gabe nodded. I used pretty much those exact words in my prayer this morning, that God would thwart the enemy. Did you? Joey asked, amused. Grandmaster Kino said our prayer this morning, and he too used those exact words. Gabe gave a wide smile. God is so cool. New scene. Same day, still November 26th. It's 7:30 a.m. now, Tuesday. Gabe Tanner Community Center, Pine Forest, Georgia. Gabe, Peyton, Agent Key, and Joey Adams walked into the center, but Gabe didn't get 6 feet in the door before a beautiful young girl ran at him and jumped into his arms. She wrapped her arms around his neck and her legs around his waist and laid her head on his shoulder and cried. He held her tight as he spoke to her. Okay, Tay, it's okay now. I wasn't even hurt. It's going to be okay. She pulled her head away just far enough to look into his eyes and then cried some more. He chuckled at her. Okay, Taylor, I understand. I do. But it's going to be okay. Do you believe me? She sniffed and nodded. Okay, babe, I'm going to set you down because some people want to talk to me, but you stay right here by my side. Okay, she said softly. Peyton headed to speak with his mother and brother and fill them in on what took place. Gabe set Taylor down and put his arm around her and then shook hands with all the people who'd come to speak with him. As young Eric, Logan, Jojo, Brody, Ricky, Mark, John, and Chaz surrounded Gabe and asked questions, he kept his arm around Taylor. After about 15 minutes, Rose approached and hugged her brother from behind. Okay, guys, we're all happy that my little brother is okay, and another attempt at putting out his light has failed. I'm going to give you about 5 more minutes to chat, and then I'm really going to need for you to get to work. The men all chuckled and nodded in agreement. Eric Sr. approached Gabe and spoke to him for a few minutes. In the meantime, Joey was on the phone to Jason, and then Keegan, and then he spoke in person to Eric Sr. and John Apple, and finally he asked Rose to announce a quick meeting in the cafeteria. Rose made the announcement and ended it with the order that no one better mess up the tablecloths or decorations, or there would be consequences, making everyone laugh. Joey and Logan turned on one of the amps and handed him a microphone. Okay, everyone, we're running a few minutes behind on our duties today, but Rose will be pleasantly surprised about how fast we'll catch up, which is what I told her, so don't make a liar out of me. I think you need to know what's happening. Yes, there was an attempt on Gabe's life this morning. Yes, there were 2 violent attempts yesterday. Satan is working very hard to keep us from doing this thing we're trying to do. We call it the feeding of the 5,000, but we're doing more than feeding them. I know you all realize that. We have some leads this time. This guy today was not your regular low-life street criminal hired in Atlanta from the back of an SUV. He has connections to Dr. Julian Black. We'll know more later, and we'll speak to the correct parties later, but here's what I'm getting at. We can't let this get in our heads and make us fearful. And on that note, I'm turning the mic over to Grandmaster Kino. He handed the mic to Eric as he approached, and he bowed to him, and Eric turned to speak. Eric looked over the crowd of people. Rose, he said softly, can we get this giant monitor turned on? Oh, yes, of course. She ran to get the remote. And Daisy, Joey is going to send you a video. Can you cast it up on the screen? Yes, sir, I can do that, she said cheerfully. Thank you. Eric smiled and nodded at the crowd and was obviously counting, and then finally spoke. I just quickly counted, and there are around 70 people here currently. Tomorrow, we'll be addressing over 500 volunteers who will be donating their time on Thursday, and that will include most of you people, too. What an amazing group of people we have right here in the small town of Pine Forest and the surrounding towns. I'm very honored to be in the presence of this group who loves God, who serves Him and honors Him, and does it with no thought of accolades. You just want to do what's good and right and serve God. So because I feel that way about you all, I know you'll understand that this little thing, this attempt to thwart our endeavor and to take the light that is Gabe Tanner away from this world, will not deter us. We won't let it deter us because that's what they want, and we will not give in, and we will not bow down, and we will not be thwarted. As a matter of fact, God will do the thwarting. This morning, in our family prayer at the end, I asked God to thwart the plans of the evil ones. And I learned today that Gabe, in his personal prayer this morning, used those exact same words. God has answered our prayers and has put it in my head that He is directing this endeavor, and He will continue to answer our prayers. I also learned from Gabe today that little Iris wanted desperately to go with her brother to the restaurant. And Gabe, who usually would grant her any plea, felt strongly this morning that she shouldn't come. And then Gabe's dad, Assistant Deputy Director of Ameritech, Keegan Tanner, told Gabe that God told him to bring Iris with him to visit Lizzie, whom you all know has just given birth to 2 beautiful new spirits. He said God's words were, "Suffer the children to come unto me." Eric stopped as he became emotional and realized the Holy Spirit was filling him. He looked up. So, God spoke to both Gabe and Keegan to keep Iris safe. And then at that restaurant, well, watch how God thwarted the would-be assassin. Daisy, roll the video. Everyone stared up at the big screen and watched how a little boy, approximately 4 to 5 years of age, had a bottle of orange juice literally jump out of his hand. The boy cried and immediately ran to his mother, putting him out of harm's way. The gunman slipped in the juice and went down. Play that back a minute, Daisy, Eric directed. She did. That bottle of juice looks like it literally pulled from the boy's hand. Eric smiled. Looks like it is literally pulled from the boy's hand, Eric smiled. There would be some that think I'm just an old man ranting and raving and sounding crazy, but I don't care what others think. I've been close to God since I was a boy, and I cannot and will not deny it when I see Him working in our lives in a very real way. If we deny these things, then surely the miracles will stop. One more time, Daisy. She played it back. It was obvious. The bottle simply moved upward out of the boy's hand and then flipped over onto the floor. As you can see, the timing was perfect. If the juice had been spilled any earlier, the gunman would have seen it and simply jumped over it. Any later, and it wouldn't have had any effect on the guy. It was perfect, because God's timing is perfect, always. Let this lift you. Let this show you that God is with us in this endeavor. He will bring us the people that need to come, people that may be His future warriors. But it's not just them that will be impacted. It's all of us, all of you. How this event will change each of your lives remains to be seen. But I know it will. He smiled. So I know Rose would like us to get back to work extra hard and extra fast so that she won't be stressed. But Rose, I want you to know, we all want you to know, that we understand how hard you've worked on this event and how important it is that we all do our jobs. And if we do that, everything will work. We are part of a team. The linemen have to block, the running backs have to run, the receivers have to run the right routes, turn and be ready. He heard a murmuring from the guys and smiled. So I was giving football analogies because it's that time of year, but there will be a baseball team here from UGA thanks to Peyton, and we are blessed to have Brody Smith here with us too from the Tennessee Vols. So I'll change my analogy. The fielders have to back up their pitcher, focus, concentrate, no balls get by, and by balls I mean souls. The catcher takes care of the pitcher. Again, no balls get by, and when when it's your turn to bat, you give it your all. You swing away. So people, it's time to step up to the plate. He grinned. Was that enough? More than enough, Brody called out, making everyone chuckle. So I've said enough. I'm going to switch back to football for a second and call on one of my grandsons to give us a prayer, and then stay quiet so that Rose can take the mic and remind us what we need to be doing, and we'll get to it. He nodded. Jojo, will you honor us? Jojo came forward, took the microphone, and delivered a beautiful, heartfelt prayer, giving thanks, asking for protection and for direction and for energy and strength, all in Jesus' name. Rose then took the mic and quickly ran off a huge list of everything that everyone was supposed to be working on, and that crowd got to work immediately. Rose smiled. It was all going to be okay. New scene. Still the same day, still Tuesday, still at the center, but now it's 11 a.m. Young Eric took a quick break from hanging lights in the cafeteria, pulled out his phone, and checked the time. He felt like he'd waited long enough to hear how things went at the doctor. She hadn't contacted him to tell him, so he figured she was still mad at him, and that worried him. He decided to send a text. Hey, 2-3, how's your foot? Did you get a new cast? She didn't answer right away, and after a minute he started to get impatient. Finally, though, he got an answer. Wow, 3, I just got my new phone turned on and transferred. Just now. When your text came through, the tech guy was still holding my phone. LOL, laughing emoji. Sorry, guess I was anxious. NP. Yes, I have a new cast. They x-rayed my foot. Looks fine. Said it was healing well. I'm walking out the door of the phone store and GPS says I'll be there in 15 minutes. So you're not mad anymore? Too hard to stay mad at you. You know I wasn't really questioning your love for me. Talk about it when I get there. I love you, all caps. He sent her a smiley face. Relieved, he shoved his phone back in his pocket, moved the ladder about 6 feet and climbed back up. Brody Smith nodded at him from the ladder opposite him. So, how's she doing? He smiled. She's on her way back, and she's not mad anymore? She doesn't seem to be. Good. Looks like we're about done with the lights. Yep, let's get this done. Unload the cases of water and eat some lunch. Sounds good, Brody said. Logan and Gabe walked up to them. Wait until you see the cases of water, Logan said. The guys came down the ladders. Why? Gabe smiled. There are 200 cases of spring water and 200 cases of flavored water. Oh, wow. Where are they, and where exactly does Rose want them? Young Eric asked. They're in a truck, backed up to the loading dock behind the cafeteria, but not sure exactly where she wants them, Gabe replied. I'll go ask, Brody said quickly. Logan and young Eric smiled at him knowingly. Yeah, why don't you go do that, Logan said with a laugh. Gabe watched this exchange. What's that all about? Young Eric nodded toward Brody. We think he's got his eye on your sister. Gabe frowned. On Rose? On Daisy, silly boy. Gabe thought about it. You know, at Jake's wedding, I saw him dancing with Daisy pretty close, but I didn't think too much about it because he's younger than Daisy. He's 22, Gabe, and so is Daisy. Yeah, but he just turned 22, and Daisy will be 23 next month. Young Eric shrugged. He turned 22 in July, so she's only 7 months older than him. That's not a big deal. Interesting, Gabe said. Brody headed to the front lobby, and when he got there, he frowned. To his right was the tall front counter that Daisy usually sat behind, working on the computer. At this moment, though, she was standing on the very top level of a little 4-foot stepladder. Both hands were over her head, as high as she could reach, pressing something against the center of the wall. He had to admire the view. Daisy Anderson was a beautiful girl. That adorable cherub face, those big blue eyes, the long white blonde hair that came to the middle of her back in soft, shiny waves, and that tight, athletic body. Currently, she was dressed in some hot blue jeans and a soft golden sweater that exposed just a hint of her navel because her hands were up over her head. Daisy, he said. She peeked at him under her arm and muttered, Just a sec. 18, 19, 20. She continued counting until she reached 30, and then took her hands away from whatever she was pressing on and looked at it closely, making sure, he supposed, that it wasn't coming off the wall. She smiled. Okay, sorry. The directions say to make sure you press firmly for 30 seconds, and I don't want this hook to fall down. He moved forward to look at the hook. You should have asked one of us to do that for you. She shrugged. I did it. I hated to have to bother you guys. You're all working so hard. So what's going on the hook? She leaned over to pick up a large fall wreath, but it was out of her reach from where she stood on the top level. Her body wobbled, and then the ladder wobbled, and she gave a yelp. Brody reached quickly, placing his hands on the high front counter. He jumped over it, landed right next to Daisy, and caught her as she fell. She looked at him as he cradled her in his arms. Wow, you're quick. And it's a good thing, too, he quipped. Daisy, you need to be more careful. You could have fallen and broken your arm, or worse. She nodded. I'm sorry, you're right. But hey, thanks for catching me. He chuckled. You're welcome. Can you, put me down now? Oh, he mumbled as he set her carefully on her feet. She immediately grabbed the wreath and started up the ladder. Are you kidding me? He grumbled. Give me that. He took the wreath from her, climbed the small ladder, and hung the wreath on the hook. She watched him. Thanks again. So, how tall are you? I'm 6'4". He came down and folded the stepladder. How tall are you? She smiled. I'm 5 feet 6 inches. He smiled. Cute. He couldn't help it. He reached out and tucked a lock of her hair back that had fallen in her face. He looked into her eyes that were questioning him. Don't want to block that beautiful face from view, he said softly. She blushed, which made him smile. So, did you come up front for a reason? Did you need something? Oh, yep. I'm supposed to come find Rose and ask her where she wants the cases of water placed. Well, Rose is somewhere in the building. I don't know where, but I do know where she wants the water stacked. I'll show you. He followed her into the gym. They met up with the others who'd been directed to unload the water. Gabe, Peyton, young Eric, Logan, Charlie Stewart, and Lucas Murphy. Jojo was also there, saying he would supervise. Hey guys, follow me, Daisy said with a smile. She walked past him and toward a long row of tables along the back side of the gym on the right side of the stage. She went behind the table. So this is the beverage table. If you could stack the water and the flavored waters along this wall behind these tables, but make sure you leave walking room behind the table so that people working this area have room to move. All the guys nodded except young Eric. He was shaking his head. Hold on, he said as he trotted across the gym to where some of the men were working on repairing a light. Can I borrow a tape measure? In that toolbox on the stage, Jericho stated, grunting as he tightened a bolt above his head. Thanks. Young Eric went to the apron of the stage, grabbed the tape measure, came back and measured the wall behind the beverage tables. Shaking his head, he turned to explain. Let's just say for 1 second that there are only 200 cases of beverages. Each case is approximately 10 inches by 18 inches. If we stack them 6 high against the wall, which is about as high as I think they should be stacked for safety reasons, and then we made another stack of 6 high right in front of the first stack, that would cover 18 inches of wall space. So 18 inches of wall space will accommodate 12 cases. There are 200 cases. Divide that by 12 because we're stacking 12 at a time, which if I round it off means we need 17 spaces of 18 inches each, which is over 300 inches of wall space, which is about 25 feet, but we only have 28 feet here, and there are 400 cases altogether, which would mean we need 50 feet of wall space. If you want it stacked just behind this row of tables, we can fit a little over 200 cases, and we can put the other 200 along a different wall or leave them on the loading dock and bring them in little by little on Thursday. Young Eric held up a finger. Or the alternative is we stack them turned with the 10-inch side against the wall, but that makes them stick out into the space behind the tables an extra 16 inches. So if you want to move these tables out from the wall an additional foot or so, we could probably get all 400 cases stacked behind it on, he stopped and calculated, on about 28 feet of wall space, which is what we have here. Daisy, Charlie, and Lucas were wide-eyed. Gabe chuckled. Logan and JoJo smiled. Brody and Peyton looked at each other. Is he serious? Peyton asked. You want to check my math? Young Eric challenged. Eric is really smart and very good with numbers, Gabe explained. At one point, he was thinking about being an astronaut physicist. Daisy pulled out her phone and called Rose, who arrived on scene in a few minutes. The problem was explained again to her, and she made the executive decision to move the tables out a foot, saying that they didn't have time to ask the guys to move the beverages on Thursday. So get to it, guys. It's almost lunchtime, she ordered and started off. Rose, Gabe said, while we're stacking the water, we're going to move the beverage tables completely out of the way, but I promise we'll put them back when we're done. I trust you, Gabe. He grinned. Good. He looked around. Hey, guys, I have an idea. What do you say we make this fun? How? How about a little competition? The guys all smiled. How so? Peyton asked. Well, there are 4 hand trucks. We divide up into teams of 2 and see how many cases of water we can stack in a given amount of time. Daisy laughed. Gabe, you make everything into a competition. I like it, Brody said with a smile. But there's only 7 of you, JoJo said quickly. I'll judge, but we need another guy. Gabe looked around. CJ was off somewhere with Violet. She had the children and was working on a musical number. Jericho was just coming down from the ladder. Hey, Jericho, we need another guy. We're going to have a competition, teams of 2. Jericho shook his head. Sorry, I have a list a mile long to do for your sister. But hey, my guy Jalen is a young guy. Find him. I'll go call him over the loudspeaker, Daisy said. A few minutes later, Jalen arrived in the gym. What you need, guys? Gabe smiled. Well, your boss said you might be willing to join us in a little friendly competition. Jalen smiled. Always. But I have to warn you guys, I have won a lot of firefighter competitions. Awesome, Gabe said excitedly. You want to be my partner? Jalen laughed. The others moaned. Sorry, Gabe, that's not how the teams are going to be decided, JoJo said quickly. Gabe shrugged. Okay, so how will they be decided? Everyone get in line, JoJo commanded. They all did. Count off, JoJo said. They all did. Stay in line. Daisy, can I get a piece of paper and a pen? Be right back. She came back with the items. JoJo tore the paper into 8 pieces, wrote numbers 1 through 8 on the pieces, took off his USC hat, and put the pieces in it. Daisy, draw 2 numbers. She drew 2 and 7. That's Brody and Peyton, JoJo said with a smile. Man, 2 college athletes together. Not fair, Peyton's brother Lucas complained good-naturedly. The teams ended up being Brody and Peyton, young Eric and Lucas, Jalen and Charlie, Gabe and Logan. All right, JoJo said. We'll run 2 teams at a time so that you don't get hurt getting in and out of the truck. How long should they go? Let's give them 2 sets of 5 minutes, Gabe suggested. The first 2 teams go 5 minutes and they rest, and the second 2 teams go 5 minutes, and then each team goes one more time to see who the best 2 teams are. Then those 2 teams square off one on each other. JoJo nodded. Okay, see how many cases you can get off the truck and stacked against the wall. Short side against the wall, 6 high. Correct. Eric? Young Eric smiled. Right. Only work on the regular water first, Jojo said. Young Eric got a text and pulled out his phone. Hold up a second, Jojo. Jordan just got here. Let me go greet her and get her in here. Jojo nodded. Eric rushed out. He smiled as she came in the front door. Rushing to her, he took her in his arms and hugged her hard. Hey, babe, I'm so glad you're back. Me too. He kissed her quickly. We're about to have a water carrying competition, and I'm teamed up with Lucas Murphy, Peyton's little brother. Come on in and watch. Okay, she said. Grab me a chair, 'cause I don't feel like standing a long time. Got it. They hurried back into the gym. Jordan immediately started cheering and clapping and whistling, telling her man to kick butt. Gabe started swinging his arms, loosening up. Too bad we don't have any spectators. That always gets me going. Oh, I can fix that, Daisy said as she walked away. Attention, everyone. Lunch will be coming in the door any minute now, and since you're about to break for lunch anyway, we have a special treat for you. There is about to be an important competition. If you'd like to join us in the gym or along the way between the gym and the truck outside the cafeteria loading dock, our young men are going to square off on a competition to see how many cases of water they can move from the truck into the gym in a 5-minute block of time. There are 4 teams. 2 teams will compete at a time. After the competition is over, we'll break for lunch. It took only a few seconds before people began filing into the gym. Jojo announced the rules and explained the course for everyone. It wasn't just a few feet. It was a trek from the truck at the loading dock inside and through the cafeteria kitchen, across the open cafeteria to the hallway, down the hall to the gym doors, and across the gym to the back wall. Daisy, Rose, Lily, and Heather were asked to keep track of the count for each respective team. The gym was now full. Grandmaster Kino, Ricky, Toby, Mark, Joey, Cam, John, Chaz, Nolan, Jericho, and his guys, Jimmy, Max, Micah, and Luke, CJ, Agent Key, Agent Thompson, Agent McRee, Agent Diaz, and many other agents were there. Most all of the women and children, too, had come to watch the guys. Silly family competitions were always a fun time. And Lena came to sit next to Jordan, and they compared whistles, Lena and Jordan. Lena had Jordan beat on that. Brody and Peyton versus young Eric and Lucas would go first. The guys were stretching and getting ready. All of them pulled their sweatshirts over their heads, leaving just their white T-shirts. They tossed their sweatshirts at a chair, and Jody quickly picked them up off the floor and laid them neatly over the back of the chair, making the women smile. A few people volunteered to video, and Taylor decided to go live on Gabe's channel. She quickly sent a text to Mr. Tanner, telling him and Mrs. Tanner to watch what's going down live on the website. She signed on and quickly started explaining the rules in the competition. She barely finished when Jojo pulled out his phone, set the timer, and yelled, "Teams on your mark. Get set. Go." The boys took off, finding it harder than you might think to run with a hand truck by your side. Brody and Peyton got to the truck first. Within only seconds, picking up 2 cases at a time, they had 6 cases loaded on the hand truck and hightailed it back to the gym. The crowd was cheering. Young Eric and Lucas were only a few seconds behind, and it ended up that both teams completed 6 trips, so had delivered 36 cases. Jojo decided in case they needed it later, he should take note of how far they'd made it on their 7th trip. Brody and Peyton had already loaded the hand truck again and had made it to the gym when time was called. Young Eric and Lucas had only just finished loading their hand truck again, but hadn't started back yet. Jayla leaned over to Charlie. "It looks like we need to do something different. We'll go to the truck, load the hand truck, you start back, and I'll grab an extra case to carry and catch up to you." Charlie grinned and nodded. They bumped fists. Gabe, too, was thinking along those same lines, only a bit different. "Logan," he whispered, "can you still control the hand truck if we add a 7th case?" Logan nodded. "Absolutely." "Okay, and once you're good, you take the hand truck out, and I'll grab an extra case myself." Logan grinned. "We got this." Gabe nodded. "Yeah, we do." Jojo held up his phone to start the timer and nodded at the next 2 teams. "On your mark, get set, go." Both teams did as they'd planned, but Jalen's team didn't notice that Gabe and Logan had an extra case on their hand truck. After 4 trips, Jalen and Charlie had 28 cases, and Gabe and Logan had 32. And then on trip number 5, Jalen noticed that Gabe and Logan had been carrying an extra case, and so he surprised everyone by grabbing not the 1 extra case, but 2, carrying a case under each arm. So after 5 trips, it was Jalen and Charlie, 36, Gabe and Logan, 40. Even with Jalen's extra effort, it looked like Gabe and Logan were going to win. They were on trip 6, however, when the unthinkable happened. Just as Logan turned the corner into the gym, Logan tripped over the wheel of the hand truck. He lost control and he toppled over. Gabe stopped to help him. Time was running out. Jalen and Charlie got to the gym and got their cases stacked, giving them 44. Gabe and Logan tried to restack the cases on the hand truck, but knew they were almost out of time. They each picked up a stack of 3 cases and hurried to the gym. They didn't get them put into place before time ran out. They put their cases down and laid on the floor, breathing hard. The crowd cheered for them harder because they lost and because they'd made such a great effort, and they cheered for Jalen and Charlie, who'd gone above and beyond, especially Jalen. The score for the 2 teams were Jalen and Charlie 44, Gabe and Logan 40. Then JoJo reminded everyone there was a second round, and it was the total of the 2 rounds that would determine the championship round, and for the preliminary round, all they had to do was beat their one opponent. A few of the men went and cleared up the fallen cases of water in the hand truck. So Brody and Peyton saw that the best way to win would be to duplicate how Jalen carried 2 cases with a 7th case on the hand truck. Brody carried the 2 cases and Peyton operated the hand truck. They made 6 trips and ended with 54 plus their original 36 for a total of 90. Young Eric and Lucas did the same, but Lucas, being only 14, struggled to keep control of the hand truck with a 7th case on top and so had to go slower. They only completed 5 trips for 45 plus their first trip of 36, giving them a total of 81. Winners, Brody and Peyton. All 4 guys, Brody, Peyton, Eric, and Lucas, were covered in perspiration and breathing hard by the time their second round was over. Sorry, Eric, Lucas said as he tried to catch his breath. Eric smiled and rubbed his hand. Are you kidding me? Nothing to be sorry about. We gave it our all. I wouldn't want anyone but you for my partner because you're younger and not to your full potential yet, and you made me really proud of how hard you worked and didn't give up. I'm more proud and happy about that than concerned about not winning. Lucas smiled. Thanks, man. I think I get why Gabe likes your family so much. Peyton, who'd heard what was said to his little brother, smiled and nodded at young Eric. Thanks, man. The crowd cheered and applauded long and hard for the 2 teams. Now it was time for the other 2 teams to complete their second round. Gabe and Logan decided that rather than duplicate what Brody and Peyton did, Gabe had to carry 3 instead of 2 in order to make up for their deficit. If Gabe could do it, that would give them 10 cases per trip. Jalen and Charlie decided to play it safe. They didn't want to risk Charlie losing control of the hand truck. So Jalen told Charlie to still only carry 6 and he would carry 3, giving them 9 cases per trip. It came down to the wire, to the very last second. All Gabe had to do was put his 3 cases down in time, and if he did, they would win 198. Unfortunately, Gabe was at his last bit of energy and strength. He was behind Jalen by only a few seconds. Charlie was unloading his hand truck. Logan was right beside him unloading his hand truck. They both looked up to see Jalen and Gabe coming at them. Jalen threw his 3 cases down. JoJo called time, and a second later, Gabe threw his cases down. Both Gabe and Jalen lay down on the floor, breaths coming in great gasps. Charlie and Logan bent over, hands on knees. JoJo smiled. Great going, guys. He leaned over and spoke to the ladies, and young Eric also came over to speak to him. Okay, everyone, Jalen and Charlie. Hold on. He leaned over and spoke to the ladies, and young Eric also came over to speak to him. Okay, everyone, Jalen and Charlie won 98-97. That means in 20 minutes of time, these guys brought in 366 cases of water. That would bring us to the final. However, the problem is I've just been informed that we only have 34 more cases to bring in, so I guess there will be no final. Thank goodness, Jalen quipped. JoJo went on. We just need volunteers to bring in the last 34 cases, and we're done. Gabe drew a deep breath. I'll do it once I catch my breath, he panted. And I'll help him since it's my fault we lost, Logan added. There is no fault, Gabe said breathlessly. We tried to do more. We gambled and lost. No shame there. Whatever, brother. Gabe finally sat up and went to help Jalen up, holding out his hand to him. Good job, Jalen. You did your firefighters proud. Yeah, he did, the other firefighters yelled and cheered. Jalen let Gabe help him up and shook his hand. I'm too old for this, he mumbled. You're going to be back to normal in a few minutes. I'm going to need about a week. Everyone laughed. Brody rose. Gabe, I'll get the other cases. You rest. Besides, I want to see how difficult that is. I mean, carrying 3 cases at a time as fast as possible. It's a little harder than I thought it would be, Gabe said. I think that's because of the bulkiness of carrying them in front of my body. Young Eric nodded. Right, because these cases only weigh approximately 36 pounds, so that's only 108 pounds, which would be like picking up Taylor and carrying her around, but she's not bulky like these cases are, so she would be easier to carry. Taylor laughed. I like that you think I'm not bulky, and I really like that you think I only weigh 108 pounds. The girls all giggled. I'll go get them, Brody said. Jojo, time me. Jojo held up his phone. Okay, ready? Wait, young Eric said. I'll go too. Jojo grinned. On your mark, get set, go. The two took off. They started out strong when they returned the first 2 times, but slowed down when they returned on their 3rd trip and were breathing hard. And by the 4th trip, they'd slowed significantly, but were neck and neck. They tore back to the truck for the last 4 cases and finished strong pretty much at the same time. That only took you a little over 4 minutes, Jojo said, much faster than Gabe and Jalen. Gabe and Jalen helped to load the hand trucks each trip, Logan said. Oh, my bad, Jojo laughed. Rose called out over the crowd. Lunch is here, everybody. Who wants to bless the food? I do, Angelina Kino said as she jumped up and down. Okay, sweet girl, go ahead. She bowed her head, then looked up and frowned. Everybody be quiet. Rose looked around and asked for help from Ricky Kino. Ricky spoke loudly, and everyone got very quiet. Hey, everyone, we're saying a blessing on the food. He smiled at his sister. Okay, Angel Face, go ahead. Dia Fada, thank you for our food. Please bless it. We love you, Jesus. Help our family. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen, everyone repeated with a smile on their faces. We have the food on some tables in the lobby area. Grab what you want, eat where you want, but do not mess up these tables in the gym or in the cafeteria, Rose ordered. Yes, ma'am, several people chirped. The crowd dispersed. Gabe started putting the beverage tables back in front of the cases of water as he'd promised. The others saw and helped him. Once that was done, the guys found their sweatshirts and started toward the front lobby. Brody took a deep breath. This was his chance. And that is the end of chapter 7. Wasn't that fun?